And I came across this post, and it was about a governmental lawyer who works for the IRS. And I guess he had heard that there were rumblings of a government shutdown happening. And so he got all these permits, all these licenses, and permissions that he needed to open up a hot dog stand in Washington, D.C. The picture of the article was this IRS lawyer, that stands for Internal Revenue Services, but this lawyer from the IRS dressed in a suit with a hot dog stand. And the purpose of the article was to, give him props for thinking outside of the box, for doing something different, for, just not just laboring in the fact that I'm not working, I'm not collecting a paycheck. And the lawyer was interviewed, and he said that this gave him the opportunity to move around and do things, because he said, I can't just sit at home all day and not do anything. So I just thought of doing this. I've always had a dream of having a hot dog stand, and here we are. Welcome to the She Does What She Wants podcast, my darlings. It's Yvonne Renae Heard here, and I am your host, and I am elated to be here as always. So today we're going to talk about the power of the pivot and why pivoting in today's world is so incredibly important. Okay. So if you've been following me, and if you've honestly been following what's going on with the world and the things around us and the corporate settings and the government settings, things look like they are in a hot freaking mess right now. Okay. Like it is hotmess.com in these streets. Nothing feels the same. Nothing is kind of giving what it was giving. I would say probably pre-pandemic, but quite frankly, nothing is really giving what it was giving a couple of years ago, right? As I'm filming this right now, we are in the midst of a government shutdown. We are in the midst of a lot of corporations downsizing, a lot of corporations falling, a lot of people losing their jobs. There is a rumor, and I'm not going to speak this into existence, but there is inklings of conversations about SNAP benefits or governmental benefits being cut off to people when it hits a certain point. And I just want to let you all know that the chaos that it appears that we are enduring is 100% an opportunity to pivot into the things that you are meant to be doing and the things that you are really good at doing. And one of the things that made me think about this conversation was that I was recently answering some messages that I got on LinkedIn. And I still work as a corporate lawyer, so sometimes I use LinkedIn. I'm really not a fan of LinkedIn. I think it's a little stuffy, and I quite frankly think that it's a little fake. However, that's the space that I exist in at times for now. And I came across this post, and it was about a governmental lawyer who works for the IRS. And I guess he had heard that there were rumblings of a government shutdown happening. And so he got all these permits, all these licenses, and permissions that he needed to open up a hot dog stand in Washington, D.C. So the picture of the article was this IRS lawyer, that stands for Internal Revenue Services, but this lawyer from the IRS dressed in a suit with a hot dog stand. And the purpose of the article was to, give him props for thinking outside of the box, for doing something different, for, just not just laboring in the fact that I'm not working, I'm not collecting a paycheck. And the lawyer was interviewed, and he said that this gave him the opportunity to move around and do things, because he said, I can't just sit at home all day and not do anything. So I just thought of doing this. I've always had a dream of having a hot dog stand, and here we are. So I thought that was interesting. And then I started looking at the comments. And there was a particular comment from an individual who also appeared to be a government worker. And that person made the comment of, it must be nice that this lawyer had these funds and these resources to basically pivot and get these licenses and, get a hot dog stand. But a lot of us governmental workers work paycheck to paycheck. So we can't afford to do that. So what are we supposed to do? You know, valid point. All these points are valid, but it just made me start thinking for a minute. You may not have the resources for a permit or licenses or to launch this huge, grandiose business. However, I ask you, employ upon yourselves, what resources do I have? Like, the time is to start asking ourselves, what can I do with what I've got? Because that is literally how we have to pivot right now in this world. So we've been conditioned to depend on systems outside of ourselves for a long time. We have basically bought this narrative from the government and from, other entities, churches or like whatever. We have bought this narrative that somebody is here to take care of us and that somebody is here to basically shell us out a salary or shell us out like some money at the end of the week or at the end of the month or at the end of the year to basically run whatever systems they've created for us. But the thing about it is that these systems have never been built for our liberation, ever. They were never designed for that. The jobs, the institutions, the routines, all these things basically keep us in survival mode. And so what I was witnessing was somebody literally voicing their concerns while being in survival mode, which honestly, it's not their fault. It is 100% not their fault that they feel this way because quite frankly, that's how we've been programmed to be. We've been programmed to be dependent and we've been programmed to be on survival mode. However, even though it's not your fault, it's still your problem to handle. And that's what I want to wake everybody up to, okay? The power that you have, especially if you have like a few basic things, right? You can literally turn this situation in many situations or whatever situation you're in into, this monumental thing that is a movement or, at least makes you some money, okay? So that you can like go on with your daily life, right? And, perhaps even more money than what you were making before in that job. So here's the thing. Let's connect this to the bigger picture, okay? The systems are collapsing, all right? Government, corporate, financial. We've seen it before. We've seen it in different spaces. This feels a little different because I think it's impacting a lot more people. We had the real estate crisis back in 2008. There have been other financial crises, but quite frankly, I think combined with the political landscape that we're in and also just just where we are, like it feels like a lot, but this is not a time to panic. I want to let you know that when the pandemic happened in 2020, more millionaires came out of that pandemic than probably anything before. Diamonds are built in very, very tough situations. Millionaires, billionaires are built, are made when things are tough, okay? When things look tough from the outside world, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about creating solutions to problems. And as long as humans exist, there are going to be problems that need solutions, okay? So the people who are going to thrive during this period are the people who know how to adapt, know how to create, and know how to literally go from within and take leadership in saying, how am I going to fix this? How am I going to change the circumstances surrounding me? Okay? And every single person has the ability to do this. And if you don't feel like you have it, then I take that as an invitation to tap into yourself. Or if you want some assistance with it, listen, let me know. Hit me up. My information is down in the notes. If you would like to book a break the script session, so I can help you chart out how to go about, creating the best circumstances that you can possibly have in your life, because that's what this is about, okay? Life is supposed to be amazing. Life is supposed to be good. It's not supposed to be shitty, and it's not supposed to be stuck in survival mode. We're not supposed to be doing this, okay? All right. So here's the thing. When the old way of life crumbles, your creativity becomes your currency. Okay. So those creative juices, all right, let's get them flowing. Let's get them flowing. And you can start that literally by looking at the things that you have in your life in your immediate control right now. Number one, let's start with Captain Obvious, but something that people often forget about: your phone. We're at a point where, quite frankly, if you don't have a smartphone, like you're not really, doing well in the world. You're not really existing in the world. Okay. And if you're watching this, you clearly either have a smartphone, you have some type of device, you have the internet, you have something that allows you with connectivity to the rest of the world. Okay. So I really want you to think about this. With this phone, this phone is $1 million, multi-billion dollar device. Okay. You can literally run entire businesses from your phone, to the point where I know many, multimillionaires who at this point don't even exist with laptops. They don't feel like they need it. Literally everything is a phone. Everything is in their phone, rather. Everything is an app. Everything is literally in your hands, right? So let's start with that. Let's start with the internet. Let's start with the fact that, you have some type of system. If you're not operating on the internet or whatever, like, you literally have connectivity to people, to knowledge, to the rest of the world, to be able to help you think about different things that you can do with that. So, what can you create? What can you share? Like, what can you teach? Like if you think about the things that you absolutely love doing, like if it's like, I don't know, baking cakes, if it's talking about, religion, if it's talking about your travel and your studies, like, these are times for us to literally tap into our interest, our gifts, and what we're good at, and utilize the phone to help yourselves figure it out. Listen, Chat GPT. Like, AI is coming for a lot of our jobs, and AI is at the same time a wonderful resource. Use it. Use it. Okay. And I also think it's important too to connect with your spirit and your inner source, and get quiet and still, and start tapping into what source, what God, what universe, what is it telling you? What is God telling you? Or the universe or source, or whatever word you want to use. What is that higher power telling you? Okay, when you take a second and you move away from the noise and you get really still, what are the little inklings of information that are coming to you? Okay. If you're having a hard time, or if you're having difficulty, or if you don't know where to start, I think that, number one, stillness is a good way to start. But I also think too is moving your body. Go in the park and dance around. Do something a little different. Do something a little wacky. Don't be scared of what people think of you, because, quite frankly, people's thoughts of you are not your business. Okay. Because you have your life to live. Everybody else is on a personal, individual, spiritual journey here. Okay. So the only thing that you need to be concerned about, quite frankly, is you and those that you are directly responsible for. Okay. All right. So also think about, the second major point is, how can I use my skills differently? Your voice, your talent, how can you change this into something new? How can you maybe take some of the things that you were doing for your job and insert that into something different and something big to help the world, like, and I just think that it's really important. And this is a note for people who are laid off, or people who are furloughed, or people who are just like in a tough spot. Use this time of silence wisely. Do not use this time to ruminate in what you feel like is not going right. Like, use this time to use your thoughts, use the spirit within you and the spirit outside of you, and your physical body to create a different feeling and a different reality. Okay. That is so very important. That is so very important, because I do think that it's very easy to get kind of stuck in a, like, woe is me state. All right. And here's the other thing: we should not be waiting on, quote unquote perfect conditions to do the thing. When you get still and when you hear that inkling from spirit that is telling you to do something, do it. Do it. Okay? Because quite frankly, the universe respects speed. It respects action. It respects all those things, okay? And this is really about the merging of feminine and masculine energy, right? Because feminine energy, it creates. It's soft. It attracts. It's essence energy, right? The masculine energy is the doing energy. It's the going. It's the let me do this. Let me actually do the thing with the physical body, right? Both of these things are necessary to create anything. Like the feminine and masculine energy is necessary to create a baby, right? So take the time of stillness and the time of, not listening to, your bosses talk to you about stuff and responding to emails and responding to pings and all this other stuff. Use this time of stillness to dream about your life and how you want it to turn out and the things that you want to accomplish. And then also use this energy and this time to take massive action on those thoughts. When you get that inkling, move. Like, for an example, um, I know somebody who was recently laid off from their job, and this person a couple of months ago had the inkling to start an Etsy store. And they sell various oils and they do, spiritual readings and all these other things. And so when they were laid off from their job, I said, listen, go and focus on that because you are making revenue from that. You're making money from that, grow from that. Like literally take that and elevate that to the next level. And I completely understand their concern and their frustration because quite frankly they had just been let go from their job. But the response from the person was, well, I had a dream about that one night and I just did it. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is God in motion. This is literally like textbook God giving you the vision and then you making it plain and then you putting it into fruition. Like you have a vehicle. Like go forth in that vehicle as hard as you can. And when you hear other inklings of other things, of other hints of inspiration, don't be afraid to go for it and act on it. And don't be afraid to fail either. That's a whole other topic. We'll get into the concept of failure in a little bit on another episode, but don't be afraid to do the thing because if you didn't have the thought, if the concept didn't come to you, okay, like it came to you for a reason. Like it wouldn't exist, like it wouldn't be coming to you if it wasn't supposed to come to you. And if it came to you in the form of a thought or an inkling or whatever, that is an indication that it's time for you to act on it, okay? And it's meant for you to act on it because if you had the thought and you were inspired by it, then you are to take inspired action because of it. So here's the thing. You don't need a new system. You need a new sense of yourself. And you need to, and it's not even necessarily a new sense of self, but it's a remembering of who you really are and who God made you to be while you were here on this planet. So, this is a time for us to step into our power and to reclaim it and live it boldly. To be quite frank, these structures have always been crappy. Okay. They've never been designed for us to win. They have been designed for us to live in inauthenticity. They have been designed to keep us small. And as we're seeing the collapse of them, you have to remember that this is all happening for a reason and this is divine. And if you are here for it, and if you are existing and you're listening to me for a reason. Okay. It is all of our duty to come together as a collective to figure out what the things are that are going to uplift us. because we're designed to be rich. We're designed to have amazing life. We're designed to be multi millionaires if that's what you desire. But you're at least designed to be able to take care of yourself and have an amazing life. And I fully, wholeheartedly believe that. So start with what you have. Start with where you are and grow from there. There's always room for growth. You don't need a money for a license. You don't need money for hell. If you don't have money for an LLC, you can pause on that. Okay? But think about the ways that you can contribute to this world and in a massive way, or just think about the things that you love. Think about the life that you want. Focus on these things, okay? And focus in on that energy and inspire yourself to create gracefully and hugely in a massive way. If you're ready to stop waiting for somebody else to tell you what to do or to exist in somebody else's system that's not working, that's clearly not working, and you're really ready to step into your gifts, to use them and capitalize on them to the to the fullest, book a break the script session with me, okay? I have a few requests and I keep getting more and more requests, especially now that I'm making these YouTube videos. So listen, book a break the script session, okay? Let's talk about what's possible when you stop waiting for permission and when you start living in your truth and you start living as your highest and grandest self. Okay, so that does it for this week's episode. I will talk to you all later. Bye, darlings.